My name is Samir and we're talking about the pay-to-play system with
Yeah, my name is Ethan Hunt. I am the founder and executive director, and recently now CEO of the International Soccer Academy of America. We're a high school just for soccer players, and Samir is one of our graduates.
great. Well, I just want to start off with just a quote from Alex Morgan, which she stated that soccer isn't the same anymore and has become a business instead of a playground. So what do you have to say about that, Ethan?
In the United States, the dollar is the most important thing, and we're the world's economy. We're the base of the world's economy, and we drive competition. And if somebody is offering a good product and somebody wants to undercut them and offer something cheaper and families want to go with that, then they make that decision. And then someone wants to undercut them and it goes on and on and on until essentially what you have is a bunch of clubs competing to offer kids and parents the most games they can possibly have, which then risks their injury, but also racks up the tally of the total cost for families. And then inevitably, the likelihood of that player actually going on and playing at a decent college level is fairly low. You really have to specialize in what you're doing. You can't just play club all the time and get better. You have to have a coach that knows what they're doing. You have to have a mentor. You have to have a parent. And she's exactly right. You look at Brazil. What kind of structure does Brazil have? They don't have any structure. It's a complete disaster. And yet they manage to have one of the best national teams, men's and women's, every single year for the last 50 years. How does that happen? Um, because they play for the love of the game. They don't play for anything else. And the same thing in Spain, when we're at Villarreal, the team that we're partnered with that you got to visit. Um, Villarreal doesn't have competition of people trying to undermine them and trying to sell a product cheaper than them. And they're just offering the best product, period. And it's there's not a need for a dollar in Europe. There's a more communal sense in Europe. In the United States, it's more like mine, mine, mine. And because of that, and because of that mindset, essentially what happens is a bunch of parents wants better for their kids, the kids ask for more, and we go down this spiral. And so my job is not to re-educate people or educate people or anything that's super condescending. My job is to just show a better path forward and to show it with the results, right? And that takes time because you have graduating classes of kids that you have to show, but that only happens once a year. So, we're at, 15, 20 graduates now. We'll have more and people are starting to see, but what they're starting to see is only the first or second year. What they don't see is I'm in year five, you're pushing year six of this process. So who has the wherewithal to and the endurance to stick through and change it? It's one thing to say what the issue is, and it's another thing to change it. And
Yeah,
so I would encourage people not to say anything unless they're going to do something about it.
true, true. But I noticed, and when I went to Spain with you, I noticed a lot of passion and love for the sport with the coaches and the players. So I feel like that takes a big part. Like here in the US, there's a lot of people that just do it for the money. Coaches, assistants, they just want the money and they don't do it for passion. Like people in countries like Europe, in South America, places like that.
Yeah, I mean, the cost of living there is much lower, so they don't need as much money to be paid. But also, they're training every single day, whereas we're training twice a week and lying to kids and to families that somehow they're going to be a good soccer player. Like families that come to me and be like, my kids wants to be a professional soccer player. And I never say they're not gonna be because when they do, then they'll be like, you were wrong. So I never do anything like that. But are you willing to do what it takes to get there? And the reality is to get there, you kind of need to immerse yourself in a culture where it's every single day of playing.
Yeah, yeah, true. All right. And what what do you believe like is the best way to go around the pay to play system in the US? I know it could be really hard to possibly change the way it's handled, but what are some ways like it could be going around it?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked previously, but I think the the best way that I can wrap my mind around things, and let me tell you, I can wrap my mind around a lot of things with how unique our school is. But the biggest thing I can wrap my mind around is making it bigger than soccer. So I think you have to tie in education. I think you need dollars that are coming in for something other than just soccer. Clubs don't make money. They have to raise their prices. They got to rent more land. They got to do this or that. Um, I think you have to tie it in with education. Um, you have to bring in education dollars um, to help um, subsidize the soccer costs, but then you have to turn around and use those subsidies, those soccer dollars that we've now, you know, allotted for soccer that came from education to figure out ways now to pay back the education side and teach kids um, life skills and academics through soccer, probability and statistics, sport classes, history classes, whatever it is to do with the game. So
Yeah,
I think you have to tie it in with academics. And then the other thing is the way to do it is to make it a nonprofit. And you'll know who's serious about helping kids when you see who has LLC behind their name and who has S Corp behind their name. And then when you see who has nonprofit 501(c)(3) behind their name, you'll know very quickly who wants to help kids once you look at those things. Nothing wrong with wanting to make money off of your business, but specifically in the soccer world, you'll get a really good idea of who's serious about helping kids and who's serious about making a buck by checking out if it's a nonprofit or a for-profit.
yeah, totally agree with that. One of the things that helped me a lot from your school was, make the mixing with the school and the education and the fitness part. Just having those two things close together, kind of just made I was able to focus on the two things at once. I feel like that was one of the great things about your school that helped me a lot to accomplish playing in college and being able to withstand the college level right now.
I mean,
So
you were one of our biggest transformations, obviously. I mean, you came in and you kind of wanted to play. You're like, I guess, maybe. Like, you kind of had to be asked to play. Like, otherwise, you would have just kind of and it's just a total transformation. And I think that you probably notice that once you then get in athletics, your social group also expands. The people that you wouldn't have talked to otherwise expands. And while at ISAA, everybody is talking to everybody, that's not normal in typical school and typical life. So you do have to join different types of groups of people to expand your network. And I think you did that when you decided to start playing. And you're probably around people now that you wouldn't have been around if you were the same person you were as a sophomore in high school.
true, true. It did help me expand my relationships right now. So I'm grateful for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some other things I saw from my research were there's a lot of nonprofit that try and help um, um, communities. Like there's one here in that I know of in Colorado Springs of a hospital that were helping the community. They granted the money for kids, so they were able to play for free. But it was only a certain amount. It wasn't enough to keep it. keep it as a normal thing. But one of the things they specified in this article was that the reason they did that was so kids would create a habit of an athletics because there was many kids going to hospitals for for not creating a habit of doing an exercise. So that's one of the things that the pay to play system is creating in the United States is blocking opportunities for kids to exercise and have fun, and just makes them end up in the hospital instead of uh, enjoying a game, a free game, pretty
I
much.
mean, it makes them end up in jail. It makes them end up eh, in many places, makes them
Yeah,
end up
true.
in juvenile detention. I mean, but I think the problem is the nonprofits don't have a sustainable way to maintain the offerings that they give to their target audience. So, who's going to keep giving money year over year to an organization that gives scholarships to soccer players? That's such a niche thing. Like soccer players that do what? Are these soccer players that are playing club? And then what's the return on investment within the community? If a donor gives $1,500, is there even $1 that comes back to the community? Does this kid get a $30,000 scholarship? There's no way to track that data. And so it's really hard to say like stuff like that, like trust me, nonprofit people are saints, but you have to have a way to be able to track the data. And so for us, we directly track the amount of tuition paid, the amount of scholarships and donations given versus, and then what the student's eventual scholarship is to college or professional contract. And then if we can even just be even on that, we're in a really good place because typical nonprofits, they just dish out money, help kids, do this, do that, and that's that. We want an actual return on investment into the community. We want the kids to stay in the community, to reinvest in the community, and then over the course of their life, spend more money in the community. And our graduates who move away to play, we want them to be successful in their communities. And so I know that the nonprofits have the hearts of angels, but if you don't have a sustainability plan, if you don't have donors who are totally bought into what you're doing, it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. And some of the donors that we have and the generous folks that give year over year, and that base keeps growing. But if I hadn't met them, pretty early on, it would have been it would have been tough. And I think you probably even saw my tough moments because I was pulling my hair out. But
Yeah,
once you start to get, I throw this around, a billionaire here, a billionaire there. I'm not like trying to be, like, oh, but I'm just saying, like, all it takes is one person to really change the trajectory of what your mission is to be able to realize your vision. So for us, as a CEO of an organization, and his organization bought in and he bought in, and he knew somebody else and they competed with each other to donate, and then they brought in somebody else and they donated, and you start to get together this group of people and it starts to multiply instead of just adding. And when it starts to multiply, that's when as a nonprofit you're in a good place, because if the tuition dollars dry out, if the state stops giving funding for scholarships, we still have this funding for donations. So you just have to be multifaceted. You have to have different revenue streams. It's the only way. And I love what the nonprofits are doing, getting back to that point. But if you really want to make an impact, you can't be around for 10 minutes and then be disappearing when the kids need you the most. And it's not the nonprofit's fault. It's the sustainability plan. It's the strategic plan. Where are we going to be in 3 years? Where are we going to be in 5 years? Where are we going to be in 10 minutes? Where's the money going to come from? And you have to plan that out. And then, by the way, that whole plan is not going to work. So you have to be able to change and adapt to whatever the next challenge is. And you got to have somebody on your team who's a visionary. and somebody on your team who implements, somebody on your team who executes. And you got to have those two different people, and that's who makes a successful organization.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Ethan. There's also um, I've seen watched some games from the U.S. recently. I forgot what league it was, but I noticed that they lost in the semifinals, I believe, to Panama, right?
Mhm.
I believe so. Yeah, Panama. And I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, I would say, for a country this big to not being able to play in a pretty low league. I mean, it's not even Europe or World Cup, and I mean, it's just a little bit of what this country is creating, and I mean, if they want to keep it like that, just not winning any trophies for the national teams, it's just gonna be harsh on us and the youth here in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped watching US soccer in 2015 after the women won the World Cup in 2015 and after the men had a good showing in the knocked out Portugal in 2014 because they had a coach who had a brain. And up until 20 minutes ago, when we hired Mauricio Pochettino, we didn't even have a single coach with a single brain cell. And, you keep hiring these American people. What are we doing? America's 30th in the world, I would say, of countries of success. So why do we keep hiring Americans? Like, when they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it's
Yeah,
broke. It's broke. So why do we keep trying to fix it the same way? So I just gave up watching. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. It's a joke. And, it's not the player's fault. It's a structural issue. It's something within management that they just, they're 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, and they just can't, they're incapable of thinking outside the box, and they'll continue to get the same results. And I was devastated when we didn't make the 2018 World Cup, and then I realized this is a systemic problem. This is not the players on the field. The best player in CONCACAF was Christian Pulisic. This is
yeah,
not this is not a Christian Pulisic had a bad game. This is a why were we in this position to begin with after 12 games, waiting on the 12th game to try and beat Trinidad and Tobago, and we can't. So it's just not even it's not even worth it's just not even worth it. And it's sad.
yeah,
It's sad because you look at Jurgen Klinsmann, great coach, great coach. Should have never gotten rid of him. And Pia Sundhage should have never gotten rid of her. And Jill Ellis did okay, but off of Pia Sundhage's um, efforts and development. So, yeah, U.S. soccer on the league structure is growing because there's more dollars being spent here. From a national team perspective, we're regressing. Even the women's team, I threw it on for 5 minutes today, and Brazil has closed the gap tremendously on the United States. I mean, multiple countries have closed the gap. Spain closed the gap on the United States. They're better than the United States. And women's soccer. Women's soccer didn't even exist in Spain 6, 7, 8 years ago. So if they
yeah,
can beat us in 8 years that we've been doing for 100 years, it's not magic.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
formula here.
yeah. True. Big difference.
But you can't give away the formula, and Spain's not going to give away the formula. I'm not going to give away the formula because why would we go and tell them what to do when the answer is obvious to people who know soccer? Um, and then they'll just take it and do it themselves, and they'll get all the credit. So these are a bunch of people with big egos and those kinds of things. And so, you know, fail, crash and fail and burn over and over again. And I'm not saying that to be harsh, but a lot of times things just need to burn down before you can really build them back up. So,
Yeah, true. And I was reading this article from Glancy, and I mean, she stated that in order to be able to kind of change the way of the pay to play system here. As I I think she says she's seeing a lot of us trying to copy different systems from other countries, and she believes that is it wouldn't work because we don't have this. It's not the same. We don't have the same things as other countries. If you know what I mean. And she said that we need to kind of create our own way of handling soccer instead of trying to create another copy of another country.
Yeah, I'm
If
not sure who you're referring to in that article. But uh I mean, you can take a mixture of many things, you know. I've combined the European model with my own model. Europe doesn't have uh, state accredited high schools that fund private schools that can focus on soccer, that can, you know, do really unique things. So that's in our advantage. What's not in our advantage? We don't have Villarreal as our next door neighbor to brand, right? So how do we use our advantages and our strengths, uh, you know, to our benefit? Um, and I don't think it's a, well, we shouldn't do this. We should do that. We should, you know, I'm a big action person. You know that more than anybody. People
yeah,
know I'm about action, not about words. And everyone will say, well, we should do this. Well, we should do that. Well, we should do this. Well, I mean, I feel like what I'm doing is working. So I'm not going to tell other people what to do because the whole thing's a mess and I'm trying to build it and this takes years. I mean, you got to build this brick by brick, relationship by relationship, dollar by dollar, donor by donor, student by student, parent by parent. Um, this is not a, well, we can do this, we should do that. All these people with these theories have never done anything in practice. Hope Solo, who has been ostracized by US soccer because of one incident, that happened in her past, which, you know, the reports are a little wishy-washy anyways, is one of the most intelligent, understanding people of what the US needs to do to change. The best goalkeeper in the history of women's soccer. But she's been ostracized because of one foolish moment of drunken stupidity. And yet, if people just listen to her, they'd be able to start to fix the US soccer system immediately, but they don't. So, um, you know, it is what it is. And um, you know, we just focus on ourselves and do what we can do well. And what you'll notice is other people will follow that. And you just got to protect yourself and protect your business model and you know, just make sure that you're doing things the right way, you're doing things ethically. You know, my book's coming out in a few days, and I talk a lot about that. I talk about ethics and when other people are treating you unfairly, turning the cheek and just letting it happen. And that's kind of how I feel in this situation as well. You know, people will say a ton of things about our school and this and that, but it's my favorite quote um, is, you know, what other people say about you is none of your business. And when you use that mindset, nothing can stop you because nobody else is stopping you. Only you can stop yourself.
that's right. That's right. And I mean, just to finalize here, can you just give us uh like just an encouragement for those for people who are trying to make it high? And I mean, you know how the pay to play system is getting in people's way, you know, just an encouragement for those who are trying to look forward.
Yeah. I would say you guys have more technology at your disposal than anybody ever, and it will continue to be that way. When I was your age, which wasn't that long ago, but in the world of technology was a lot longer ago, we had to actually come up with things out of our own brains. Now
Yeah,
you could literally go to AI and say, how would I end the US pay to play system? I've never done that because I maybe I should do it. Um, but that's the cool thing is you could do that and maybe not get the right answer, but you can spark an idea by looking. And so that's what I would just encourage people to do is um, don't read the articles from the 2000s and the 2010s and everyone that said that they had it figured out who's still done nothing. And don't listen to the people who are giving theories and sitting on the sidelines. Look at someone like Brad Friedel in Ohio, who was a Premier League goalkeeper and a national team goalkeeper, and opened a multi-million-dollar soccer organization in Ohio and went bankrupt, and it just went under. He tried doing um, he tried doing things, and he tried doing them too quickly, and when the market wasn't ready for them. Um, and you can look around, you can look at IMG Academy, right? IMG is charging over 100,000 a year and they just sold themselves out to a Hong Kong hedge fund. That to me is not doing things the right way, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you got to keep your morals and your ethics with you. You have to enter the market at the right time. Don't fix something that um, you know, is that you need help from others fixing. Get a team together, get people to work on your behalf because you make some progress and then you take another two steps back. So ask the questions. You're not going to get the answers. You're going to learn your answer, and the question is going to change about 50 times while you're trying to find the answer. But the nice thing is nobody else is actually making actions. They're just saying, this is what you should do. This is why pay to play is bad. Well, what are you going to do about it? And I pose that question back to you. Yes, it's bad. And what are you going to do about it? So, you know, there you go.
All right, then. Well, thank you.